Hey hikers, before we get into today's episode, I just wanted to let you know I'm currently enrolling for my signature 12-week program, the Online Summit Program. I'm looking specifically for no more than 10 hikers who want to get strong and pain-free so they can conquer every adventure without having to do hours and hours of exercise every single week. If that sounds like you and you have a significant adventure in your sights, or if you deal with some type of foot, knee, or back issue on the trail, or you simply want to get in a better physical and mental position to be able to properly enjoy your weekly adventures, please shoot me a message on Instagram or Facebook with the words "I'm interested." We can have a chat and see if or how might be a good fit for your goals, and if or how you might be a good fit for the program, and then we can go from there. So shoot me a message on Instagram or Facebook and let's make it happen. Alright, hello guys. Today I'm going to be rolling you through a few heavy pack training tips. Now the reason I want to talk about this today is because I've quite often been talking about heavy pack training as a really good way to prepare you for the trail. And I know a lot of people do struggle with this particular type of hiking, whether it's in your training or whether it's when you're actually on the trail. And there are a few areas which really do pull up a little bit sore, that are a little bit of a struggle, and there are a few mistakes I quite often see from people doing this. So today I want to roll you through some very simple tips which you can apply to your heavy pack hiking, whether it's in your training or whether it's actually on the trail, which will make you feel a little bit more comfortable and help you perform a little bit better. So let's get into it. Now, number one is a really common complaint I hear from hikers doing either heavy pack training or heavy pack hiking is that their neck and their shoulders tend to get pretty tight. Now, this is a common situation for a few reasons. Now, obviously, number one, a heavy pack, something you're not used to, sitting on the neck and shoulders, that's going to take a whole bunch of extra strain. Number two is a lot of hikers don't tend to do a huge amount of upper body training because it's not particularly necessary unless you're carrying a heavy pack, but more than likely that area might be a little bit weak. And then number three is the way that hikers tend to hike, if they're going in their training or if they're just trying to cruise along the trail, sometimes the neck and the shoulders can take a little bit extra strain either way, and just purely from the way you're going about things. So one really simple way to help relieve this neck discomfort when you're with a heavy pack is to focus on abdominal or belly breathing. Now, the reason I say this is pretty straightforward. Essentially, in our normal breathing patterns, when we're sort of charging along the trail, when we're going up inclines, when we're struggling a little bit, most of us tend to breathe in the chest and the shoulders. Now, day to day, that's not really a huge issue. It's probably not the most efficient way of breathing and the most effective way of breathing, but it's not really an issue. But what tends to happen is if we're breathing in our chest and the shoulders and we have a heavy pack on our back, what's happening is every single time we take a breath, or once we get huffed and puffed, we're essentially doing little shrugs, little shoulder shrugs, little chest contractions, and every single breath you're doing a little bit of movement through there. And after a while, those muscles get tired. And after a while, those muscles get fatigued and exhausted, and that leads to a sore neck and sore shoulders. So the alternative to this is if you can focus on belly breathing, where you breathe in through the nose, breathe the air into your belly and feel your belly expand as opposed to the chest and shoulders expanding, you can reduce all those little micro repetitions you're doing, or at least minimize it, and you can be a little bit more effective with your breathing and just make yourself a lot more comfortable. On top of this, what this will do, it'll automatically help those neck and those shoulder muscles release a little bit and relax a little bit, as opposed to staying tense for the entire time on the trail. And this one very simple tip can make all the difference in your heavy pack hiking, whether it's in your training or whether it's in your hiking. So if you've got a heavy pack on your back, focus on that belly breathing, and I think it will make a difference. Now, if you get to the end of the day, end of a training session or end of a day on the trail, and your neck and your shoulders are tight, a really simple thing that I absolutely love are doing some neck releases with a massage ball. So as I've said a few times in this podcast before, I love carrying a cork massage ball in my pack when I'm on the trail. At home, you can use a tennis ball or a cross ball or whatever it may be. And essentially all you do is lie down on the floor, You position that ball into a sore spot on your neck, like your traps. So not so much on the spiny bit of your neck or anything like that, but on some meat, on a muscle. You just rest on there, take a few big breaths in, a few big breaths out. More than likely, that'll help a little bit. Now, if that doesn't quite get the spot, you can still position the ball in that position. Big breaths in, big breaths out, and you can just move your arm up and down. So lying on your back, bring your bicep up to your ear, and then come back down, and that'll probably work out that spot. Spend a couple of minutes on each side, reposition the ball a few times as necessary, and that's a really, really simple thing you can do to help relax the neck after a session like that. So there's 2 things for your neck to help that feel a little bit more comfortable. Do focus on the belly breathing and also do some neck releases afterwards. Another area that tends to get pretty battered up during your heavy pack hiking are your hip flexors. Now, hip flexors are little muscles in the front of your hips, and they tend to get pretty neglected in our training, and most people don't really focus on hip flexor strength, which is fair enough. It's not something you'd really first think about, but they can often take a little bit more of a battering than you want when you get a heavy pack on your back. So one really easy way to alleviate this is just ensuring you do a warm-up and a cool-down for these sessions. So in your warm-up, not only choose 1 or 2 or 3 exercises, mobility exercises, but specifically you want to be hitting something in your hips, in the front of your hips, to get them loosened up, to get them lubricated and ready to roll. My favorite exercise here is something called the world's greatest stretch. You can plug that into YouTube and you can have a look, which is an absolutely amazing mobility exercise. Hits a whole bunch of different areas, and that's a really great one to do at the trailhead just to get those hip flexors feeling a little bit nicer. Now, after a hike, again, you can do a little bit of a cool down to help release this area, or even midway at your lunch if you are feeling like they're building up. You can, a couple of things I really like. Number one is, again, you can get a cork massage ball, or you can get the end of your trekking pole and just sort of position that into those hip flexors where they're tight, and you'll lie face down on the floor, or you can lie on your back and just push it in with your hands, but just sort of give gentle massages into that area with the sort of the ball or the trekking pole, and that can really give a bit of relief. Another thing I like to do in combination of that is something called the frog stretch, which again you can check out on YouTube, called the frog, like Frog the animal. And essentially it's a really nice relaxing stretch just to relieve a little bit of tension through that area, and you can do that at the end of a day, whether you're in camp or whether you're back home, and that can definitely relieve the hip flexors a little bit. And then the third thing, and often a common mistake I see from people, particularly in their training, so this isn't so much when you're actually on the trail, but if you're doing heavy pack training, is people really trying to race every single session, in the sense that they say, look, I've got 10 kilometers to do, I've got 5 kilometers to do, whatever it is. They do it the first time, they time themselves, and then every single time they try to beat that time and beat that time and beat that time, and they're really hustling. And, people do like to get competitive, and this can be really great just to be motivating and to keep you going over the long term. But if you're really hustling in these sessions every single week and every single time you do it, over the long term, it's going to be a bit counterintuitive, and it's going to not really do what you want. Essentially, what you're trying to develop in your loaded pack training are 2 things. You're developing the body's ability to tolerate the load on your back. So week by week, you're exposing it to a little bit extra load, so the muscles and the connective tissues get a little bit of stimulus there. And number 2, you're trying to develop your aerobic capacity, which is essentially the efficiency of your aerobic energy system to produce energy in the presence of oxygen. Now, what tends to happen if people are really getting this racing mindset and they're just pushing every single week is essentially that intensity starts to creep up. You start to get a little bit huffed and puffed, and it turns from an aerobic session where you're developing that really efficient energy system into a bit more of an anaerobic session in which you're huffing and puffing your way through, and you're developing something that's an energy system which isn't used so much when you're hiking. It is used and is important to work, but it isn't used so much. So if you're only focusing on this and you're only racing every single week, over the long term, you're going to be shooting yourself in the foot, because using all this training time, you're not really targeting that main system that we want. So what I recommend here is, if you are doing heavy pack training and you do like getting competitive, there's a couple of different ways you can go about it. Now, one way I would recommend is if you are doing, say you're doing every single week, 1 session every single week. You might do 3 weeks of your heavy pack training in which you're just going at a steady pace where you can just go cruise, whatever pace it may be. You can breathe through your nose comfortably, you can have a conversation comfortably, and those 3 weeks you just increase the weight each week. And then on the 4th week you might do one of those racing weeks where you really try to do a time trial, you try to push it as quick as you can, and then the next 3 weeks a steady pace, the next one's a time trial, and you break it up like that. That way you get the best of both worlds. You're doing a 3 to 1 ratio there of steady pace to quick pace, and that can be pretty effective. The other end of things, if you're looking at sort of a 12-week program and 12-week training, and you were saying, look, at the end of 12 weeks, I want to be absolutely nail my heavy pack training. Maybe you got a big backpacking trip coming up or something like that. You might do 8 weeks of steady pace in a row, in which each week you just increase the weight, but keep that pace low. And then the last 4 weeks before you go, you might push the pace and do those time trial things and really try to push it. And that's a really nice combination there. But either way, just don't fall into that trap of just trying to race every single time you got a heavy pack on your back, because over the long term, it's probably not going to be super effective. So there you go, a few bits and pieces to help with your heavy pack hiking, helping relieve the neck, helping relieve the hip flexors, and giving you a bit of insight into training intensity over the long term. Now, I know heavy pack hiking is a bit of an issue and it is a concern for many, many people, but there certainly are many things you can be doing to get yourself more comfortable and perform at your best with a heavy pack on your back. Now, if you did struggle with this type of hiking, maybe you did have a big backpacking adventure coming up, whether you just want to get more comfortable with a heavy pack, or whether you're concerned about some type of ache, pain, or injury holding you back with a heavy pack, there is a solution to your problem, and there is something you can do to get on top of this. Now, this week, I'm looking for no more than 10 hikers who want to get strong and pain-free over the next 12 weeks so they can conquer every adventure. Now, if this is you, and if you do want help with your training and preparation, and you're ready to make a significant change to your hiking over the next 12 weeks, find me on Facebook or Instagram, shoot me a message with tell me more, and we can have a chat and see if we're a good fit together. It's a fantastic program. I'm incredibly proud of, and if you've got 12 weeks where you want to make a difference, this is for you. So, hope to hear from you there. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you very soon. Bye.